Hello and welcome back to Creative Pet Keeping. In today's video I'm going to give you an update on my wild Betta Mahachai pair that I have in here. Even though they are a wild type of Betta, they are actually captive bred. And speaking of breeding, we actually have a baby that's right here, and these are some guppy babies that I put in here. And this little baby actually survived from one of the spawns. They have spawned a few times, I would say a handful of times since I got them, but they're not really super big on spawning, especially with the type of setup I have them in. Now recently I actually lowered the water. I had the water up to here, which is a little higher, and that was to discourage them from spawning, and it worked pretty well. But recently I think I might actually want them to spawn, and I want to have more Betta Mahachai babies survive, so I did lower the water quite a bit. I could have lowered it a bit more, but because I have some babies that I feed quite a bit, I wanted to kind of have a slightly larger water volume because it is a little bit easier to maintain water quality. I will probably add a little sponge or bubble wrap in this corner right here. The male seems to want to spawn in this area predominantly, which makes sense because it is away from the sponge filter. The sponge filter is over there, and while it does disrupt the water a bit, it's not too bad. As you can see, the water is quite still on this side, even though it's kind of bubbling over there, so that's not too big of a problem. Of course, when I decide to film, no one wants to hang out. The male is right here, the female's right there, and I just fed them. I should have filmed when I was feeding them, but I thought about filming right after I did it. So they're kind of chubby and tired and, you know, have the typical food coma. So, the female will actually come out. So because they're chubby and full of bloodworms, they're not super active and don't want to come out right now. The female is a little piggy, so she might come to check out and say hi. She's always checking to make sure that there's no food. She's like, hey, are you gonna feed me more? Because even though I'm pretty chubby right now, I will totally eat some more. So right now she's very much colored down. So is the male. Usually when they're interested in spawning, they will darken up and color up quite a bit. But most of the time they look like this, which is not super interesting, but it makes sense because in the wild, these fish would want to blend in with their surroundings. And right now she's going to her boyfriend. That is their child right here, a little tiny Betta baby on a quest for food. This tank is a 10-gallon tank, and previously I had them in a 5-gallon. If you would like to see that video, I will try to link it in the comments and the cards, but I had them in a very pretty 5-gallon, but I decided that I wanted to give them a space that had a lot more space for them to have an actual territory. If the male does spawn, he will want to protect his eggs. So this area right here that's a little more covered up will allow the female to retreat and hide until the eggs hatch, because the male will kind of chase her around. Most of the time they get along. As you can see, you can keep a male and a female Mahachai together as well as their spawn. They won't eat them and everyone will do well. The female can, if given the opportunity, will eat eggs of a male's nest, which is why he does so well in trying to chase her away. But besides that, that's kind of the basic tank. I would like to do more with it. I added a very basic light that I repurposed. These are LEDs from one of those generic hoods that come with kits. I taped them to a Tupperware lid, so they provide the tank with a little bit of light. Betta Mahachai don't like a whole lot of light, which is why I'm trying to focus the light in one spot and not everywhere else. These guys don't have a heater because Betta Mahachai don't mind slightly lower temperatures than your domestic Betta splendens. And yeah, overall, that's kind of what's going on here. I would like to add more leaves, some more Indian almond leaves, as well as maybe either some real plants or maybe some fake plants, just to make these guys feel more safe and secure. I still think this tank is a bit too open. As you can see, Betta Mahachai don't like to be out and about. They will when they want to eat, but most of the time they like to stay hidden because it is, you know, they're following their natural instinct, and that is a safe thing to do. So this tank does have a lot to improve upon, but I've really been enjoying watching these fish and it's so interesting to see how they compare to domestic Betta splendens. So what do you think of this tank so far? And I have a question for you. Do you have a wild Betta type? Or if you could have a wild Betta, and there's about over 70 different types of wild Bettas, what species would you particularly want to keep? Fun fact, and I've mentioned this in a previous video, the domestic Bettas that we have originated from a couple different varieties of wild Bettas that were hybridized. So the Betta splendens does not naturally occur in the wild, although some people have released domestic Betta splendens into the wild, and there are some groups now that are living there. But originally, Betta splendens is not a wild type. They're actually a hybrid that was man-made. And, you know, Betta Mahachai are actually one of the fish that were used to hybridize and make up the Betta splendens that we have now today, which is really, really cool. So I hope that you enjoyed this pretty simple update. I think these guys are pretty cool. I'll be updating you guys about them in the future as I work to improve this tank, and if I can get these guys to spawn, which I can get them to spawn, but I didn't have a lot of luck with the eggs. One of the problem is the male is not very good at making a nest, so usually the eggs will end up falling. So this time I'm actually going to give him some bubble wrap to kind of help him out, because he's had 2 almond leaves fall on him before. So we're going to try to make this a little simpler. And if that works out, I will make an update video, and maybe we can compare and follow the lives of baby Bettas as they grow up, but this time baby Betta Mahachai, because they're a lot different, but yet have some cool similarities with the Betta splendens, and I would love to share that with you. So if you like this video, be sure to subscribe to my channel if you already haven't, and let your friends know. So you have friends that are into Betta fish, fish keeping, or other critters, let them know to subscribe so we can continue to grow the creative critters. Be sure to give this video a thumbs up, and I will see you in the next video.